In case you forgot, I'm the motherfucking king. Welcome back to KSM King Spider-Man Games. Right. Today I'm gonna be giving y'all um, as a review, I guess, on Wild West Dynasty from the makers of you know Medieval Dynasty. Apparently, it's the same shit, just in the Wild West setting, which to me offers a bit of more creative flavor because who doesn't love to play Red Dead Redemption and wish they had a little more role playing element to it, you know? It's for my nerds. But let's get a little look around before we watch the video. Conquer the Wild West. Explore the open world of a fictitious American Midwest and survive the harsh environments. Convince other settlers to join you and manage your ever-growing settlements. Build a home. Take care of your farm and become a legend. What the hell? We're gonna jump that nigga scam likely, I swear to God. We're gonna jump his ass. Turn down your phone when you're twitching, okay? It's a lesson to people. Turn down your motherfucking phone. And look out in case your mama call. Just say mama on your notifications though. Convince other settlers to join you and manage your ever-growing settlements. Build a home. Take care of your farm. Become a legend in the Wild West Dynasty. Sounds like everything I want in the game. Don't know about you. Are there boobs in it too? So, a little more about this game. It's in early access right now. The other games they make, one of them is called Lumberjack. I've never heard of that one, but of course, I played Medieval Dynasty, which I might give y'all today. I might do a little streaming on it today because I haven't been on it in months. Sengeku Dynasty is the first game I think they made, and it was it's the same game as Medieval Dynasty, but it's in a rural Japan setting. So come on, if you like me and you love everything about Japan, including the boobs, it's there. That's how you know I love Japan, because there were way more boobs where I grew up at. But conquer the harsh environment. Survive the elements. Build your homestead and convince other settlers to join you. Manage natural and human resources. So not only you, but also the whole settlement will prosper. This is your chance to show how the West was won. Okay? You might start by just building a simple house for yourself. But before you know it, you have to manage a full settlement with inhabitants and their needs, of course. They require resources to progress. And don't forget to decorate the buildings with a huge number of craftable items and furniture. DIY has never been this easy. I don't think I want to read more, but okay. I think I will enjoy this game. Let's look at the specs that's required. It's an i5 6000 series and Radeon 1400s, 16 gigs of RAM, 1060, which is obviously this is not a heavy game. You don't need your specs blowing out the water to play this game. Nationwide is on your side. You don't need any of that. This plays just fine with a GeForce 1080. You can't beat that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think on Medieval Dynasty, it required a little more, I think. Because when I upgraded my graphics card to a was that a 300 series or something? Yeah, sadly a 300 series, it works perfectly smooth. I've been thinking about upgrading my ship, but you guys came for the trailer. So I love you guys. Let's watch this trailer. Let's review it together. Let's get into it. KSM King Spider-Man Games. In case you forgot, I'm the motherfucking king. Oh, audio muted.
Animals and gangs roaming around,
Sorry,
it would be quite the challenge.
Audio was muted.
Lately, I've been in a bit of a Western kick going through some classic Western titles. As I'm riding through the various Western locales, I realized that a survival game in a Wild West setting would be very ideal. With all the threats ranging from the various
Very ideal.
animals and gangs roaming around, it would be quite the challenge to fend them off and can lead to some awesome shootouts. Just imagine building up a settlement, then having to fend off a bandit gang with your trusty Winchester and only a few good friends. It can lead to some pretty intense moments, and the rewards can be worth it as you now have a nice stable of horses and a few more guns to use for hunting. That sounds pretty awesome, which brings us to today's review of Wild West Dynasty, an early access title of the more popular and successful medieval dynasty. While this may share the same branding of its well-received older brother, can the concept of survival in the Wild West actually deliver? You start the game and are greeted with a cutscene. Basically, your wagon is attacked by a group of bandits as you and your mother are left for dead. The intro is honestly alright, but the narrator chosen for this part is completely miscast. It just comes across as a very bad impression of a deep voice without anything to really indicate that this is a Western type that you're playing. It's just not an appropriate voice for this.
I mean, if they really wanted to get a good voice, they can just get somebody to do an accent like this. And let me tell you, son, this is going to be one hell of a Western if you start out like this.
You then wake up and your mother is still alive. However, your mother is basically bleeding out, and here begins a bit of the tutorial. So the first task here is basically to carry her to the cave where you learn how to start a fire and then go to sleep. After that, you get some more story beats along with the miscast narrator, and you have the rest of the cave to explore. So I'm not going to touch too much on the story. We're just going to stick mainly to the gameplay from here on out. Now, if you've played Medieval Dynasty previously, the overall concept is still going to be the same here. Basically involves a lot of surviving, gathering resources, and ultimately building a settlement by talking to NPCs and recruiting them, building houses in order to house them, and have them assigned to various jobs. And quests are also present here with their own rewards. Honestly, I just mainly stuck with the main quest, which takes less than an hour currently, basically because it's still in progress and it's not fully completed. It's only just one long tutorial that turns into a fetch quest. There are some more story beats here that are followed, but not much else. Now, I didn't know if I should just kind of like go through the prelude of the game before getting into what I wanted to talk about, but it starts right away, so I might as well just say this. In all honesty, I have several gripes with this game. So let's just start out with the movement. You can play the game in first or third person, and I mainly stuck with first person. I did the same for Medieval Dynasty as well. And your stamina drains incredibly quickly, but it also recharges very fast. So it's just really weird. Honestly, I couldn't really find a way to increase stamina capacity even after leveling up multiple times. A horse can help cover more ground easier, but the stamina is also very bad too. It's just kind of ridiculous, and it just needs to get patched ASAP. It makes traversing very tedious.
And who the fuck jump off the back of a horse like
get
that?
a huge stamina buff.
You see that nigga jump off the back of the horse booty?
Movement's also very glitchy as you move up and down terrain, and it's honestly just kind of disorienting with all the head movement your character will make just from trying to walk up some stairs or just trying to walk up a crevice or something. It's really disorienting and kind of makes me feel sick after a while. So the second issue I have is that the game gives you basically no indication that you are dying, despite the lack of many dangers present in the game. Like there's a lack of animals or really any bandits.
Now I've had that problem a couple times on Medieval Dynasty, where you don't know you somewhere far, and you're very dehydrated or something, and you're not noticing that. Like 1 meter will be full, your food meter full or something, and you're like, I'm gonna make it, you know what I'm saying? But as soon as that dehydration meter evaporates, and then you just start rapidly dying so fucking fast, it's like there's no hope for you, you know. So again, I hope they correct that also, cause don't nobody want to die. within 45 seconds of them saving themselves.
Died twice from just being thirsty. And I honestly had no clue that I was rapidly being drained of my liquids. So I was initially confused on what happened. And when I spawned back in, I had to run all the way back to town. And I was just stopping and starting every 3 seconds, thanks to the way the stamina is set up. But thankfully, there is an ability to learn where you can instantly spawn your horse. Scenario. So that part, I will say, is appreciated. And third, the combat is basically unfinished. I know it's an early access game, but hear me out here. So when you attack animals, it seems to work as intended, at least for ranged attacks, but not for settlers. So I ended up finding a settler that...
He turning Buddy on with the knife. Cut me. Put it in my chest. Let me stop right there.
Had a health bar since they tend to be rare. And after I basically knifed him to 0 health, nothing happened. Like, he just stood there. I couldn't loot his body or really anything. And at that point, I felt like I already exhausted everything that I wanted to do. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll start to make the review. There's still a lot more we got to talk about. So
that nigga is Momon.
And I tried also to use melee combat against a rabbit, but I just could not seem to reach the rabbit, even though I was right up close to it. I used every single melee weapon and tool that I had available, and I just could not hit the thing in melee. I had to stick either with traps or with a bow. And for the fourth issue, there's just the real lack of Western flair. You'll mainly stick with the same tools that you found in medieval dynasties, such as a stone axe, the bow, a wooden hammer, etc., etc. There are better versions of these tools that you can get, but they're only obtained after building the right workbenches. That's as expected, so nothing wrong with that. You also can only place the workbenches in your own buildings, which I had no clue that was the case until hours after playing. And I ended up actually finding a pistol, and throughout looking at the whole map, I found 4 bullets. 4 bullets. So I was like, okay, let me go buy some guns, or let me go buy some bullets, and it ended up being $10 a bullet. Not $10 for 7 bullets or 6 bullets or something reasonable. No, just $10 for one singular bullet, which is way too much for a gun that I'm never going to use anyways, because there's not any.
Where was he shopping in? Big Daddy's pawn shop?
With the bow and arrow, since arrows are easy to craft. I also found a rifle for $1. $1 for a rifle.
$1 for a rifle.
I'm was shocked. So a bullet for a pistol is $10, but a whole rifle is $1. No sense is made from that. So I'm assuming that's just because of early access nonsense. So we'll give it that. For how expensive
quit releasing these games
it is,
so
it's just
early.
Like I said, just better to stick with the bow and arrow.
Well, I guess it does a justice.
Honestly, how do you have a Western game and design the game to favor the bow instead? Like, even in the game that I've played prior called This Land Is My Land, where you take...
Because think about it. If you give a lot of people this game early, they get to criticize it so hard that you know what you can't put out because of the criticize. Their opinions will overwhelm this game. And it also gets the ball rolling. The opinions gets the ball rolling, period.
Control of a Native American, and you're going against Western invaders. It's like you still can get various guns, and honestly, you can pick up the guns from the Westerns that you take out, and you can use them for your advantage as well. And the bow also has its own purpose. Bow mainly for stealth, and then the gun is for actual combat. So why something like that couldn't have been done, or at least more emphasis on the guns here, no idea. And I think this is the biggest issue that I just had with this game, is that it was actually just plain boring. At this stage, there's just not a lot to really find or do. Visually, it's awesome when you go into abandoned towns or mine, trying to piece together what exactly happened. But unfortunately, there's not much to find there outside of a chest or two that may contain some cheese and crackers, as well as exactly 1 bullet if you're lucky. Honestly, it just feels like a very, very pre-release version of No Man's Sky. And I understand, this is early access, but, early access has come a long way. And we'll get into more the updates and all that in a bit. So technical issues are expected for a game in early access. That's to be expected. But somehow Wild West Dynasty just exceeds those expectations, because there's way too many times where I would press left click on a tool for nothing to happen. I either couldn't chop a tree, I couldn't build buildings, I couldn't mine the rocks. Anything just would not work unless I just moved my mouse somewhere and then reposition it. It was very annoying. You can also get stuck on various objects in the world. Thankfully, there is an unstuck button to get yourself out of that mess. I'm more forgiving for that as long as there is something that can alleviate that. Other errors where you can't tell if the feature just hasn't been implemented yet, or if it's a legitimate glitch.
Well,
like
at least
I
there's
mentioned,
some rocks you
with
can jump on.
A settler that I
and
tried
hide
to take
from a
out.
boar.
I have no
A
idea
boar
if that's just a
on
glitch
Medieval
and I should have
Dynasty,
never been
you
able
can't
to
even
attack them to begin with,
jump
or
on top
it just
of something
hasn't
to
been
get away
fully
from a
implemented.
boar.
Yeah, it's just
You just said
very
it's
hard
mercy.
to tell. Now, I'm actually usually pretty
you can
lenient
jump.
on early access games, but to me, the future just looks kind of bleak. So hear me out. The game has been out in early access since February of this year, so February of 2023. And with about 9 months of development, many of these issues have yet to be addressed that I mentioned. All these bugs were since the beginning. New features are being added, but most of the bugs are just being ignored. You know, it reminds me
real.
a lot of the development of Osiris.
Let's be real. Early access is strictly to gain some monetary value, some monetary gain. Let's just be real about it. Early access is not to please us as gamers, because if it was to please us as gamers, right, it wouldn't. They wouldn't put it out as early access. They would at least make sure it's somewhat flushed out to make us not have a harsh review on it. So you can't tell me that it's not for monetary gain, because they figure out you put something out early, everybody wants to get on it before everybody else does. $16 was 16 times 100. You already winning. You know what I'm saying? You already winning. So it's 16 times 1,000. You already winning. It's gonna be more than 1,000 people, I'm pretty sure, already have downloaded this early access. And we can take a look at it if y'all want to. But
New Dawn, because every time, like, it always felt like there was some big major update, but the core issues never got addressed, so it never felt like you were just making progress. It was just like you're adding things, but nothing is getting fixed. So the latest update in particular was on farming, which to me is pretty minor since I stuck with hunting and never really bothered with farming. I mostly do that for a lot of these survival games, by the way. I mainly don't really mess with farming.
At least on this game, did y'all see that? The difference between this and Medieval Dynasty, I'm glad this is a little more better, because, look, it actually tells you the difference in between meats. That's something that you don't have on Medieval Dynasty. You don't have a lot of variations. You don't have variations of meat. When it's an animal, it's just meat. Other than a fish, then it becomes fish meat. You know what I'm saying? I think it's called stringy meat or something. But clearly you can see that it's bison meat and venison meat. Thank you, people from Medieval Dynasty, for trying with this game. Can we get another update?
These survival games, by the way, I mainly don't really mess with farming unless I really, really need to. And here in this game, you need to find the perfect spot anyway. You can't just farm everywhere. You got to find like the perfect patches of land. Honestly, I would have just preferred like an update to the hunting, like to add more dangerous animals or something, or to the combat, as I mentioned, or to the movement. Just something to improve the basic functionalities before adding stuff that is not really too necessary at this moment.
Right.
That's just my opinion. You know,
You're
obviously, right. I'm not the product
Focus
lead here,
on the
so
basic
I have no clue what's
functionalities.
going on in the background, but that's just my opinion. I'm just going to wrap this review up basically saying to stay away from this one, and I really didn't want to say that. I just have some really bad Osiris New Dawn vibes with this one. It was basically early access forever with all these updates. But when Osiris New Dawn actually fully came out, nothing really ever improved, and it became fully released in a terrible state. And the developers have basically moved on. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But honestly, I don't see things getting much better. Sengoku Dynasty is doing a great job, and that's also in early access too. So I'm not sure what the excuse here. Maybe the development
Dynasty?
team.
Is that what he said? What did he say? Sengoku.
So I'm not sure what the excuse here. Maybe the development team that it became fully released in a terrible state, and the developers have basically moved on. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But honestly, I don't see things getting much better. Sengoku Dynasty is doing a great job, and that's also in early access too. So I'm not sure what the excuse here. Maybe the development team that they have here is just not very experienced, or just not good, or feature creep. I have
most
no
of the
clue.
good developers
Obviously,
they got is pretty much because
behind closed doors.
I'm sorry. Most of the good developers they got, I'm pretty sure they're wrapped up with because they had sent an update out of Medieval Dynasty like 2 times I think this year. They sent a big upgrade, a big upgrade. I want to say like 150, like somewhere close to it's a few gigs. It was somewhere close to some gigs. So I forgot exactly how much the upgrade was, but I think it was around about 11 gigs or something. So they made a big update to this, and you see how he just says Sengoku Dynasty is in their early access, but it's beautiful and they got everything correct and functional, working with each other. So the only excuse I can make out for this one is they got most of their devs tied up in those 2 games, because those 2 games are taking off. Medieval Dynasty is a really good game. It's done almost perfectly. It's lacking a few things, but hopefully when I turn it on and I play the updates, it's doing something different. Hopefully. But this game is completely not done. It's probably, to me, it's 25%, 25-50% done. Haven't played Sengoku Dynasty, but by me looking at the reviews on it, I don't know if I own it already. I think I own it already when I got Medieval Dynasty. But it's beautiful. It's Medieval Dynasty, but in rural Japan. It's beautiful and it looks well done. This though, they could do better. Yeah, we're going to jump that nigga scam likely, I swear.
So I can't say what actually is going on. But I do hope that things do turn around, because the more good games we have in this world, the better.
If I see that nigga
I just don't have much faith in this team. But either way, I'm gonna
shoot that nigga with a $10 bullet.
Could not get a recommendation from me. But either way, thank you for watching as always. And this is Powerhouse signing off.
I don't like that song, but it's stuck in my head. Yo, you guys, this has been the King. In case you forgot, I'm the motherfucking King. KSM King Spider-Man Games. I really do need a drink, but I'm trying to stop. Love you guys. Get the hell off of my website. Don't come back without tips.